Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. And today we're going to talk to you about the Mac Mini M1. Now this is a computer that I got back in December, and I thought, well, maybe it's time that we actually did a video on this thing to let you know if I regret my decision on getting one, or if I'm actually happy with it, or if I'm a little bit in between. Well, to be honest, I am a little bit in between, obviously, because as mentioned in other videos, Apple has done some crippling effects to these M1 chips, especially when it comes down to the processor. To start with, you've got 4 performance cores and 4 efficiencies, and as soon as any program wants a 5th core involved, it's going to hit an efficiency, which turns all your 8 cores into nothing more than efficiency cores. And of course, a program is only going to use as many processor cores as it requires for performance, right? So that's another thing to consider, because as long as you're staying away from the efficiency cores, you basically have nothing more than a quad-core processor at 3.2 gigahertz that's kind of a little bit on steroids, but only with its own accelerated software. Now, running under Rosetta 2, which is our emulation, of course, for running Intel-only based apps on the Mac Mini M1, as well as the other M1s, yeah, it kind of is just like running an Intel chip in comparison. When you figure out the same exact program running an Intel as an Intel app versus running it as a native M1 app. The M1 app, of course, in the same program is going to run a lot faster. And I do mean a lot faster. So there are a lot of benefits, of course, that I have been seeing with the M1 chip when it's running with M1 native software or rewritten accelerated software. Apple really needs to go back to the drawing board, because even in their 10 core CPUs, you still have 2 of those cores that are efficiency, right? And this could actually create a bit of a waste too, because unless you are running specific software that wants more than those 8 performance cores, you're not seeing a benefit of having 10 cores, because the efficiency cores cannot be accessed unless a program wants more cores than what it currently has in the performance range, and then it switches to the next core or 2 that are left over and turns all your cores into efficiency cores, so you actually lose 200 megahertz per core. Now on 8 cores that are normally performance cores, like in our new MacBooks, you know, that's like 2, 4, 6, 8, there's 1 gigahertz, 1.2, 1.4, a 1.6 gigahertz loss overall, right? And then you only have those 2 other cores left over. And what happens if it's only going to core number 9? Well, you're not really gaining much there, are you? Of course you're not, right? So, and everything gets turned into an efficiency core at that point. Because see, you can take a 3.2 gigahertz chip and you can make it slower, but you can't take a 3.0 gigahertz chip and make it any faster when it comes to these M1 processors. See, there's no threads, there's no turbo boost capabilities whatsoever. I mean, Apple did away with all that with their M1 chip. What they should have done was just make every core, period, a performance core. Then we see the advantages. Then we see the performance and the true performance of these chips and what they can actually pull off. So, you know, that is a big difference. Now, of course, they're also crippled in yet another way. Integrated graphics, where that graphics also shares your system RAM. Now, this is why I tell people, especially nowadays, more so critical, when you're dealing with an M1 processor, you do not, absolutely do not want 8 gigs of RAM and a 256 gig hard drive, because your operating system is now going to be chewing up 4 gigabytes of RAM for Monterey and about 3 and change for Big Sur. Now, these are the only 2 operating systems that can run on the newer Intel chips in the last few years, as well as they're the only 2 OSs that are going to be able to run on your M1. And in fact, if your M1 was shipped to you with Monterey, you can't go backwards, okay? At least nobody I know of has found a way, because the new way of installing your OS, or reinstalling in this case, is you actually have to shut off the computer and then push and hold on the power button till the computer boots up and goes into a recovery mode, in which case you have a choice. You can reboot just from your hard drive and everything's normal, or you can reboot from the options choice, which gets you into the recovery mode. And you're only going to be able to access recovery for that particular OS that you last ran. So this has some definite issues. I even talked to Apple myself and I said, look, you gave us a Monterey installer on the bloody thing so we could make a backup USB stick to reload it ourselves. Yes? Why? Because we can't use it. It's pointless. The computer cannot boot in any key sequence from the USB stick. They had no answer for me. That's kind of like a dumbfounded, oh, I think we screwed up. Okay, yeah, you kind of did, Apple. Congratulations once again. Anyways, sharing graphics with the unified RAM is a rookie move as well. We have available to us, from what I found out, upwards to 5 gigabytes of RAM. Well, if you only have 8 gigs of RAM in your whole computer, 4 gigs has gone to the processor, right? Or to the OS. You only have 4 gigs left to run programs with. And you start running graphic programs, guess what they want? Video RAM. Hello! And what's usually around, even for video editing software, to fire up? Usually about 1 gig to 2.5 gigs of RAM just to get it up there. Then you still got to load all your files in and start editing and rendering stuff. And you're going to have to put your filter corrections and all that in there. And you're going to chew. And baby, you're going into your hard drive, or your SSD, okay? And your SSD drive is going to burn out in less than a year because you're torturing the daylights out of it. SSD drives are not designed to deal with virtual memory. They're, for whether it's for RAM use for programs, or whether it's, hey, I'm out of regular RAM for video and I need to steal that and program memory because you're also running too many programs. And even if you're only using one program with 8 gigs of RAM, you're going to have a huge problem on your hands on anything that's graphic intensive. Like Minecraft, for example. A cheesy game at best, but it's really hard on graphics. It wants lots of graphics memory for rendering, And I even played Minecraft the other day for 1 hour, and I was already up over 10 gigs of RAM in use out of 16 gigs that I have, because I maxed it. And that gets us to another thing yet, but we'll get to that. So by going on a borrow-as-you-go plan for video RAM, this is slow, right? This is crippling the graphics capabilities of these machines, right? I don't care how fast that unified RAM can be, but if you don't have real dedicated video with real dedicated video RAM, you're gonna have some issues, right? Now, of course, we know in M1 certified apps, we shouldn't really notice a whole lot. But I, however, have noticed a few things. And especially for exporting video time with iMovie, okay? Which right now I'm solely running iMovie for the time being. One thing to learn at a time. And I'm looking at just my export time alone and I'm thinking, well, that's a huge file. But what have I really saved over my Intel quad core that I had, which was a 3.2 gig that could overclock to like 4 point something. I'm only saving maybe about 2 minutes of export time. Who really cares? So I'm 2 minutes quicker on the M1. Woohoo! Alright, but in some cases that could be a good woohoo, because then that means you get time to do other things. So I mean, if you're a very serious time management person, then seriously, an M1 is definitely where it's going to be at right now, right? I mean, if you buy a 2020 or a 2018 Mac, you've still got about the better part of 8 years of support left on the Intel side. And if you're running something like a late 2015 iMac like I was, you got about another 5 or 6 years of support from Apple and security updates. So you really don't even need to buy into the M1 ecosystem right now. And in fact, I mean, Apple is coming out with their Pro Level Mini, their iMac Pro, and a Mac Pro Tower in the next month or two. And, these are supposed to be fantastic, fantabulous machines. Well, I certainly hope they did a better job on those than they did on the first run of the M1s, okay? Anyways, And then, of course, by the end of this year, they're going to release the new M2s, which isn't really much in the lineup from what we've been hearing. But we do see that the MacBook Air has gotten a completely new facelift, not just in color, but even in design format. And people are pretty excited about this. But we're only getting the benefit of about one extra core somewhere from what I've been hearing too. So that's really not a whole big whoop for me to spend all that extra money. Although I like the idea that Apple's doing pretty colors, which they could have done to begin with. But, hey, they're doing stuff. That's the big thing, right? But I think as far as the M1s go, and probably going to be the same thing, well, actually I know it's going to be the same thing with the M2s, they're still sharing that graphics thing, right? This is still going to be a big downside in AAA gaming. I mean, you might finally get to go ultra settings and be playable at 60 frames per second, but you're certainly not going to be able to do 100 frames per second or 90 frames per second, right? And that's the important thing. You need the frames per second to play the darn game, right? It's not just all about refresh rates on monitors, you know, the hertz rating. You know, I mean, and these things are limited too. Like even the Mac Mini M1, I've got a 165 hertz 2K display on it, which can also pull off 4K. Just go, it's done. But at the 2K level, I'm only able to pull 144 hertz out of the back of that HDMI port. You know, so if I want access to more hertz scaling, I'm going to probably have to go with a Thunderbolt monitor. And chick-ching, baby, right? I'm not spending that kind of money. There's a limit to everything. Anyhow, but otherwise, 144 hertz, that's lots of refresh rate for pretty much any game. So you just need some horsepower to pack in behind that with your processing power and your video power. That's where we're still lacking. We got to get rid of all the efficiency cores, get rid of that graphics, throw it on a separate side, away from that chip, throw its own dedicated video RAM, give us, you know, 10 or 15 gigs of video RAM. I mean, for what it's costing Apple as a company in a whole per unit to build these things, they're making a lot of money. And so they can afford to throw us a couple of extra little bones or a few extra toothpicks to go along with our purchase to give us a much more advantage, okay? And I think that would be a good thing. And really, they're still going to make a huge, massive amount of profit no matter how you look at it. All companies do. Nobody does anything for a $100 profit. You know what I mean? Well, the guys like Staples and them, even they're making more than $100 profit, okay? Per computer that they sell of a Mac. In PCs, they're making like 8 times that. But regardless, in the whole picture, how is Kevy still feeling? Well, I really like the computer. I don't like the fact I can't run Boot Camp with Windows, but everybody's in the same boat. Well, run Parallels. Well, no, because Parallels automatically goes after virtual memory, and that's going to cook your hard drive in about a year. So, congratulations. So, even if you have 16 gigs, 32 or 64 gigs of RAM, Parallels is still going to access virtual memory before you even get to fire up Windows within it. Okay, it's already sucking it. I've seen videos on this already, and I'm like, okay, the guy still has like 11 gigs free of system RAM, and that program wants virtual memory already? No! It's nothing more than a software recreation of soft PC with Windows from when we were running RISC-based processors in our G3s, G4s, and G5s. Okay, I mean, this has not changed other than it's prettier, and it can actually run a preview, or whatever they call that version. The beta testers use it of Windows 11. It's not even running a true blue full-out Windows 11 as of yet. Okay, and a lot of people don't even like 11. In fact, I went back to 10, and I've got a massive increase in performance on the same exact games. So I'm sticking it out with 10 for the next couple of years at least before I go back to 11 again. However, when it comes to all that jazz though, there's a lot of good points and there's a lot of bad points just the same on these machines. So the key thing here is, am I still happy with my purchase? I would say for the most part, yes, I am very happy. And it's nice having a computer that I don't even have to actually run max fan speed control on, because that chews up extra RAM and resources. Because I haven't reloaded the computer since, and I didn't put that program back on because the fan doesn't even go past like 1200 RPM. It idles. You know, my processor stays at 32 degrees all the time. My hard drive might get to 36 if it's lucky. You know what I mean? And I still put stress loads on the computer just to see. And it's like, I can't even heat this thing up. It's only drawing 15 watts of juice, and that's with all 8 cores running. And I haven't been able to pull that off yet either. So, you know, I haven't even seen the top performance of this thing yet. But I'd love to. Just give me some names of programs that you know of that'll chew and make these processors actually go bing, okay, so that we can get 8 cores running, because I like to see what 8 cores is like, but I haven't found a program yet. Anyways, and yeah, even some of your cheesy games don't want to run anymore. Like, they'll run, but they're sucky. I mean, I have a motorcycle game that I had to dial the graphics way the heck down on just to get it to top going with the graphics. You know, now it's all stable and perfect and gameplay's great, but I can't play it on top resolution or top performance, because otherwise it goes and the motorcycle gets ripped, stretched this way like a slingshot going in about 60 directions. Really not very cool, eh? Congratulations, Apple. These things suck for gaming. There are some games though that run quite well, and Minecraft actually does run quite well, so I guess I can't complain overly much, I suppose. But anyways, but yeah, I think overall, for what I really use the Mac for, I'm happy, because I'm really not interested that much in playing games on it, especially now I know how much it sucks at gaming. I'm reserving my steroided PC for gaming. I'm going to invest more money yet into my PC to upgrade it further, because right now I'm great. I can play like any triple game I want, but there's more upgrading I want to do to it yet to make it even better. So I'll throw my money into my PC because it's my game system. This thing is called really pathetic light gaming to Minecraft, and it does production work for my music and for video editing and that sort of jazz. Surfing the internet, you know, that's what I'm going to be using the Mac for. In fact, my PC doesn't even go on the net anymore unless it's for an update that I check on. That's it. It stays off the net, and I don't play multiplayer games online anyways, at least not yet. Anyway, so yeah, I would say in the whole, I'm reasonably happy with the computer. I do have some upsetting things about it, yes, and rightly so. But at least I'm glad that, you know, I've got the 16 gigs RAM. I've got at least a half a terabyte, which is doing me fine. It will do me fine for the next, you know, few years until I, you know, end up upgrading it to a bigger, badder Mac. Because I'm not going to turn my back on Apple. Just because they screwed up the processors on this thing and put all their apples on one chip doesn't mean I'm going to turn my back and go, I hate you, Apple. I really hate you. No, because I'm not a baby, okay? I mean, I accept the fact that, yes, it's new tech. Yes, it is something that has potential if they can straighten out a few things. You know, especially the processors. You gotta get rid of the efficiency cores. And you also gotta give us a real video source with real dedicated video RAM to itself. And then things will run even better in the M1 environment if the Apple did that. And I'm sure that's something they may have on the back burner, and they may consider, you know, because really, what have they got to lose by moving a graphics chip and putting in some RAM separate? I mean, have you seen how much naked space is inside even the Mini? You know, and even the space allotment inside the laptops. It can be done. They've done it for years anyway, so what's the difference? And those were bigger processor chips too. Now they got this really tiny chip with everything on there, including your SSD, which the SSD is lightning fast. And I would be totally okay if Apple left the SSD on the same chip as the processor. But fix the processor issue, ditch that efficiency garbage, other than maybe leave efficiency core systems for the laptop users. Desktop people, we can't handle that kind of sluggy power. We need performance. Okay, we're paying big bucks for performance, and we're not entirely getting what we're paying for here. So really, Apple, smarten up. Anyways, yeah, I think that pretty much about covers it for this video. I will do probably near the summertime, like a 6-month, you know, recap review kind of thing on this thing, and tell you in total, after I've had another, you know, 4 or 5 months with this thing, how much it can really perform, because this gives me a lot more time in. I just thought I'd give you guys a bit of an update of what I found over the last almost 2 months now that I've had it, and some of the drawbacks, of course, and of course the pros to it as well. So anyways, thank you so kindly for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we shall catch you guys on the next one. Okay, see ya.